What's up, Lorehounds? It's Koopa here inside the Masse Entertainment booth. I'm here with the Associate Producer of TERA from Masse Entertainment. So, you know, for the people that may not have been following, it's coming up soon, but what is TERA?
Oh man, TERA is the first true action MMO, which means all of the gratification of an action-style console game with the depth of an MMORPG. And if you're curious what's action combat, I'll tell you. So there's a new skill in TERA. It's player skill, and that means placement, timing, aiming, dodging, all relevant to success in battle.
And a lot of this stuff is clear as you're playing, right? It's not like you have to inherently know that it's 5-yard radius. There's some sort of visual cues and stuff like that.
Definitely. So a lot of our range classes actually play like a first-person shooter. There is a reticle in the center of the screen. It does change when you have a beat on a target, but you can miss just like in a first-person shooter. So it's really important to aim where you want to hit.
Aiming in an MMO, I don't know. It's crazy.
It's a little different, I know. You're not locking on tab targeting and hitting a bunch of the UI. You're actually having to pay attention to the screen, getting out of the way to avoid being hit, and making sure you're aiming to hit something.
So a while back, late last year actually, I believe you guys announced your main antagonist, the Argons.
Right.
And we have some more coming out for them today that we're checking out.
We do. So today we've shown the first time ever a high-level new instance. It's a story instance that revolves around the Argons. So to give you a backstory on the Argons, they're this great evil that is all about destroying organic life. That's not good for us, right?
That's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad. So we are going into the Twilight Valley because they are destroying this once beautiful garden, and we're there to reclaim it and kick a little Argon butt at the same time.
You guys, one of your big features is the BAMs, the big-ass monsters, and that is a defining feature for the game. And when I say big-ass monster, I mean they're like enormously, screen-encapsulating monsters.
You know when you see one. You're right.
Yeah. You're not going to miss this guy.
No.
But how do you gauge, just a typical kind of fodder guy in your way and a big-ass monster? How do you pace that for people?
Whew. It's tough, man. I mean, these guys are that epic-style boss fight, and they're not just hanging out in dungeons, they're in the persistent world. But, we have real-world collision in TERA, which adds another element. You're not just running through these guys either. These big guys are blocking you. And so it's really important in groups, placement, timing, make sure you want your warriors, your damage dealers staying off to the sides, and make sure you're always moving. But luckily for us, these guys also provide tells, right? They give you hints. You might have seen some of those, where you can pick up on that. You can learn from them, and you can start anticipating their movements. And hopefully, all of that together will help you, become better, because it is player skill. You do get better, you learn, and then you take that knowledge to the battlefield next time.
What about for the casual players that may not be able to inherently pick up on this stuff? Is there any sort of, for lack of a better term, like a sidekick system where you can kind of teach and earn respect for that?
That's a good question. I mean, it's not an easy game. This is a hardcore game in a lot of ways. I mean, if you're used to just sitting back playing with one hand, I don't know. It's definitely going to change the way you play.
Both hands?
Both hands are definitely needed, right? So, I don't know. It provides challenge, but we have enough for everybody. I mean, you can solo the entire game from level 1 all the way to 60. And we do recommend, like, difficult encounters like those BAMs, bring some friends. You might not want to go at that alone. While it might be possible to avoid being hit against a big boss like that, you definitely want to use, I wouldn't say a sidekick system, but we would want you to group up, join some friends, take on these guys as a group. It's not a bad idea to grab a healer, get some buffs.
They're helpful.
They come in handy from time to time, So our group mechanics play really well together, and hopefully people will utilize those to overcome some of the harder things that they encounter.
We do have the typical archetypes where tank and healer and stuff like that. Do you guys really use the holy trinity of that to build groups around and build these encounters around?
Well, yes and no, and that's not, I mean, you probably don't want to hear yes and no, but we do have the holy trinity in a way. We have the tank classes, right? But we also have not the same typical tanks you're used to. Like, we have a Lancer who's all about taking damage, has that big shield, holding the line, keeping people from going through them. But
they can physically tank, right? They could just stand there.
Physically keep people from going through them. It's awesome. But then we also have the Warrior. The Warrior's elusive. The Warrior's all about moving around and staying active, but holding the enemy's attention as well, so it's an evasive tank. It's a new way to tank. Then we have our damage dealing classes, which are, a mixture of melee and range. So we have our Slayer and our Berserker, but these guys are all about utilizing like chain combos and big charge-up skills. So it's very actiony. It's very, it's perfect for our combat. Then we have our range classes, which I mentioned earlier, are very reliant on aiming and placement. It's important.
Still kind of boggles my mind. I got to aim.
Right? And then some of my favorite is actually the support and the healing, because you are no longer just sitting back, kicking back as a healer. You are actively engaged in the fight. you are running around, it gets frantic, it gets hectic sometimes. You have to throw heals out, you're aiming at people to throw a heal at them. You got these area effect heals, luckily, and if people see these circles built into the ground, they'll know to jump in that circle and get a heal off. But it's so cool. I mean, you have to stay really active no matter what class you're playing.
So you got to know what's good, what's bad, and be able to work around it at all times.
Yes, agreed, definitely.
So one of the other things we've seen, you talked about in the past, is the political system.
Right.
Where, maybe for these casual players, that'd be something some of them would be interested in, is kind of being a person in the game that's just outspoken. So what exactly can those people do for the political system?
Oh man, the political system's awesome. It's one of our in-game features, and it's literally like it sounds. You can run a campaign. If you're a guild leader, use those guild mates to run your campaign, and we don't know how people are going to use it. We've provided this content for players to expand on and do whatever they want. I imagine people will be using Facebook, Twitter, getting that social campaign together, rallying for votes, and you cast a physical, very precious vote inside the game to elect these Vanarchs. And once elected, you might have some responsibilities, or maybe you just spun a bunch of lies and you got your own agenda, but you rule a province in the game, and ruling that province, you have abilities to open up special vendors for players. You can also open up teleport paths, which might help people get around, traveling within your area. And then of course it's not just for nothing, you also collect taxes as well, so there's a little side bonus to running a province.
It's also a definite great marketing scheme for you guys, and I'm just kind of waiting for the first person to go from office in TERA to office in the real world.
Oh man, it could happen. One of those guys could be the next president. Who knows?
Oh jeez, let's not go that far. We have enough problems in the world. So, what do we? In closed beta, we've recently heard some things about PvP and on ridiculous scales. We're talking open world,
yes.
300 on 300, and it's kind of like tribal warfare.
That's a good way of putting it. So we have what is called guild versus guild battles, and just like you said, these can happen anywhere in the persistent world. And because guilds can become as large as 300, we've actually seen in our betas very large guilds going at it in really, really big epic wars. I mean, and we've seen it where Lancers are out in the real world blocking a bridge with their shields, keeping the guild from getting through with ranged DPS behind them, and then rallying troops and getting a whole mess, like having this big, persistent, open world match. And it's awesome, man. I mean, it's really cool.
How much do you guys actually design around that and try and add to it to promote those kind of scenarios? Is there anything that a guild like that could gain from, maybe claiming a region, along with the political system?
That's a great idea. You should probably hit our forums and suggest it. No, so the guild versus guild, there is a competition, right? And you do get points for kills, and then there is a winner declared at the end of it. So there is some sort of bragging rights, right? And we're working on, keeping track of all these stats, and then, making them available to players to see. Got to have bragging rights.
Everybody loves bragging rights, especially on the internet, right? I mean, it's perfect. So we actually just went through a high-level dungeon. It's almost level cap, right?
It's getting up there, yeah. This is some of the highest stuff we've ever shown. We were showing level 58 today, and it's one of those story-level instances, all Argons, and, we had this test subject at the end. Spoiler alert, he was organized, and it just added to a really intense, awesome battle, and everybody did a great job. But yeah, that's what we're showing today.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were some deaths here and there, but hey, everybody gets through it in one way or the other.
That's right. Yeah, we got through it.
So, is that something we expect for that kind of story at that level of the game to play into later, full-on raid?
Yeah, so talking about raids, you're talking about bigger scale stuff. We do have something called the Nexus system. Now, this is a dynamic event system that's going to happen in the persistent world. And for the lore junkies out there, it's basically a time portal where the Argons have found a way to jump into our persistent world and wreak havoc. Now, this will unlock a public, it's bad, it is bad. It spells doom maybe, but it unlocks a public quest system where everybody who rallies together now can contribute together as a big, large-scale raid. And you can all gain in the reward and also gain in the victory, hopefully, pushing everybody back. It's really cool.
So the game's actually coming out shortly. Again, beta starts at the end of this month, and we got betas for you guys, so just hold tight. But one of the questions that community constantly gives us is, where are they going? The game was already launched in Korea.
Right.
Is that content coming across? Is it going to be slowly staggered? And, we've asked this question before, but is it still the same plan where you guys are going to basically launch with what's there?
Yes. We actually have an all-new build coming out for open beta on April 20th, and that is basically the same version that's overseas. We are all the way caught up, and we will continue to always update and be very aggressive in our updates to stay as close as possible to the developers. And they've been very helpful. They're all about it too. They really love North America. They want to be successful here. They want to give to our players, and so it helps us get that, rolling. And we've been working really aggressively on that schedule.
How often do we, could we expect to have those content updates?
Well, I mean, we are an MMO, so we're going to be looking to frequently update. I would look for updates to be, maybe, I can't really put a time on it, but it'll be fairly frequently. We won't go too dead without an update.
Thanks so much. It looks awesome. I can't wait to get in for some more BAM action. And it truly is the action MMO RPG. It's coming out May 1st.
May 1st, you got it.
And can't wait. Thanks so much, Stefan.
Right on, no problem. Thank you.